Mark Denenbaum, he is with 258. He's gonna correct me. I had it written down and then I threw the darn thing away. But he produced he does video advertising, all this other stuff, and he's got a lot of side gigs because he's got unlimited energy and really unlimited talent. And one of the things he does is the What a Week podcast, which has been catching my eye. Now, I'm friends with him, and he produced my television show, which is still on YouTube, the Bob Cordaro Show on TV. But he does this podcast now, and every week it never ceases to fascinate me. And I said, Mark, please call in and tell us about at least the last few episodes. And Mark Denenbaum is with us. Mark, how are you?
I'm good, Bob. Can you hear me this time?
I can hear you. We're doing better.
Oh, thank God.
All right. So I'll tell you what, and you're on top of this thing, by the way, and it's the company's 25/8 Studios.
Yes, sir.
But you're on top of this. We got a lot of people know a lot about this food stuff and these chemicals.
Yep.
This ethylene glycol is found in dog food.
Yep.
And glyphosate, which is in Roundup, which is in our food supply.
Yes. And
it's scary stuff. And I'm saying that's why I'll tell you with Trump and RFK Jr. together, I think they'll really attack this problem because it's major.
Well, that's the hope. I mean, the idea of Make America Healthy Again, I never thought that would be a call and response to MAGA, but I'm in.
It is.
The stuff that
people are responding to it.
It's good. The thing that people don't realize about glyphosate, it's in 99% of our wheat. It's in 99% of our breakfast cereals. It's used as a weed killer, and then at the same time, it's used to dry out the grains when they harvest. So you can't get it off there. And it affects the endocrine system. It affects the immune system. It affects overall health. There's a really great there's a brother and sister named Callie and Casey Means. You can find them on the internet. They're out there, ringing the alarm. The sister, she graduated top of her class at, I believe, Stanford, and she was a surgeon for 9 years. And then she got out of the business because she realized that what she's doing is not helping the overall health of her patients, because they're not calling to an alarm to the source of where these, and they're poisons. Like we can't deny that. It's like, if you drink too much, it's a poison. If you drink a little bit, you can probably get away with it. But the amount of these things in our food, like I just read a review the other day. Back when I was a teenager in the 90s, McDonald's had their French fries had 3 ingredients: potatoes, salt, and beef tallow. Now they have 17 ingredients. Why is that?
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
Man, have you done a podcast on that with What a Week?
No, not yet. We want to look into the water around here.
Oh, that's a big one.
I think I texted you.
Yeah.
And you might be able to share it with your audience. But there's a study that was done on the surface water of Lake Scranton, which is Northeast Pennsylvania's drinking water. It goes all the way from North Scranton up to Waverly. And there's 30 chemicals that shouldn't be in there that are over the suggested recommended dosage. They're called contaminants, So I don't know if anybody was giving me food that said this had contaminants in it. I'd be really remiss to eat it.
Would not be a good thing. Somebody texted in, Bob, I had a friend that used to spray weeds for a living, and I had a truck that was issued to him from work when he came to his house. He parked there in my yard, and then they went together to a campsite where we were going to stay for the weekend. It rained that week. Every single thing in his yard, which was within 100 square feet of the truck, was dead.
Yep.
and nothing grew there for years after.
Yes, and that's in your Cheerios.
My word.
Like, that should be an alarm for everybody. Like, we don't understand, like, it's very bizarre to me that we take all of these things at face value. Nobody looks at what the ingredients are. And I'm not like one of those crazy, and I don't mean to say crazy, but one of those fanatical, like, watch what you eat. But now that I know, like, what's in the food and what's in the water, it's really concerning. It should be concerning to anybody. Yeah. Most of these things, there's 1,000 things in our food that are not allowed in other countries because they're illegal and they're poison.
There are a lot of people texting in reaction to our conversations on these. Supposedly Cheerios and Quaker Oats contain herbicides. Example,
yes.
Glyphosate.
Yeah.
Please, and somebody else, please look into the water. We will have to do that. We're going to have to talk about that when you get to the subject. But he does this on What a Week podcast, these kinds of subjects all the time. And I'm just fascinated with it. And by the way, somebody helpfully adding, there's no dioxin in Roundup itself. Dioxin is what made Agent Orange so toxic because it was a carcinogen. But all right, I want to sidetrack you because you don't have that show, but you're going to do it. I know you will.
Yeah, we want it. I want to do it where it's not just a podcast. It's more of like a long form video.
Well, and by the way, somebody asked for a homeless update. They'd listened to you when you were on previously.
So we're working on part 5. I'm trying to get people on camera, but it's really hard to get people on camera.
Sure.
I want to get them on camera to tell us where we were wrong, And I have no desire to corner anybody or make them look foolish. I just want to hear their perspective on it and see if it lines up with being a net positive or a net negative. Mm-hmm. I think the homeless situation right now is a net negative for human suffering. I think it encourages. I don't think it's nefarious. I just think that what everybody is doing in under the guise of empathy, is ending up hurting people more.
I'll say it jokingly and sarcastically. If you ever watch The Odd Couple, Oscar said to Felix, he says, "Felix, how come every time you try to help me, you hurt me?" And I mean, it's one of the many things the left does with their policies, and they all backfire. All right, so I want to go back to your current. You've got this videographer, for lack of a better term, and you'll improve the term for me. And he's been all over the place. Darien Gap, I mean, you name it.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about this What a Week podcast.
So you're talking about Michael Yon.
Yep.
And Michael Yon is a former Green Beret Special Forces, and he's been all over the world in conflict zones. And he took it upon himself about a year and a half ago to go down to the Darien Gap and start, corresponding for people down there about what is going on. And he was boots on the ground. He's been on Tucker. He's been on all these different independent media places talking about what is actually happening down there with a bird's eye view. And what he is reporting is terrifying about what groups are there. I said on the podcast, when men go to war, they leave their families behind, and when they're fleeing from war, they bring their families. These are military-aged men who are at the border crossing without restriction. Mm-hmm. Bob, you have a house. If you let strangers into your house without vetting them, I'm sure it wouldn't go well after a really short period of time. I don't know how this is allowed, and it can be stopped with one executive. Actually, if they just follow the already their law, this could be stopped. And they're not doing it. They're flying people. Now they're not going to the border at the crossings. They're actually flying them into the country.
Yeah. That's how they're reducing. That's part of how they're reducing the numbers. It's insanity.
Correct. Yes. And the numbers are upwards of 20 million. That's more people than reside. That's almost the entire population of Pennsylvania. And they're not, trust me, they're not bringing their tired, their weak, yearning for freedom. If you're a country and you have bad people in your country and you don't want to deal with them, you put them on a bus and you drive them up to the border and they come right across. It's murderers. And this is not me being xenophobic. These are just the people that are coming across. Jihadists, 180 different countries are represented at the border that have crossed. And that's the ones that they found, not the one. You see videos all the time of just there's nobody checking them. They just cross the border. and a lot of them have been kicked out and for terrible crimes, and then now they're back.
My word.
And I don't want to sound alarmist, but like the house is on fire, and we're all worried about like who Taylor Swift is dating.
Yeah,
it's madness. Like we're all in this arc together, Democrat, Republican, Independent. You know, we all have to. Robert Kennedy said something that really was profound to me. We have to love our children more than we hate each other. Amen. And we're not doing that. And it's scary and it's terrifying, and people are going to suffer.
It's fascinating how, your podcast, What a Week podcast, went into this and took it on. And guys, we can't do justice to it even in an hour. You got to watch the podcast.
Well, I had to censor it on YouTube because YouTube deleted it. They gave us a strike for the Michael Yon podcast, which is insane. Like I grew up in the 90s watching Unsolved Mysteries. They were, Robert Stack was telling me that Sirhan might not have shot RFK. Like, and now we live in this world where like, we can't, questions are forbidden. Why can't we ask questions? Why can't we talk to people who have experienced and seen it with their own eyes about what's going on?
It'll disrupt the powers that be. I was telling some people, the audience yesterday, we have a conversation every day. I said, the amazing thing is the polar reversal that we've experienced. The Republicans were the party of the establishment at one time. Now, with Trump at the lead, with RFK on board, we're the insurgents fighting against the establishment that's trying to harm us and control us simultaneously.
All the stereotypes that we've heard, like when I grew up, I didn't leave the Democrat Party until 2020. But right now, with Trump and RFK and the people that are supporting him, they are historically now more left than the Democrats when it comes to environment, when it comes to health, when it comes to free speech, when it comes to no wars.
It's common sense.
Sure. The common sense went out the window, brother. I don't know where it went, but we got to really start digging for it.
Yeah. I mean, you basically, you have a country. Somebody texted this into me. Basically saying Brazil is taking American property and suppressing free speech, and and the NFL's having a football game there, like it's nothing.
Yeah, what does that say? They didn't. What was it? The All-Star game? They didn't have it in Georgia. I forget the reason why, but it was a dumb reason. The MLB moved out of there because people got up in arms. Now you have a country in Brazil where it's basically one judge who's a dictator who literally looks like Voldemort from Harry Potter. And what they're doing is they're censoring free speech, and they want to fine the people of Brazil. If they use a platform to say a thing, whatever it is, they'll get fined $8,000 a day. If that isn't suppression, like nowhere in history are the ones that are telling you, like ever, are the ones that are trying to get rid of free speech been the good guys.
Yeah, never. And it's like, it's one of those cliches, but it is completely true. All right, how do they check you out, Mark Dennebaum, and the What a Week podcast? How do they find it?
So you can go on all the socials and just type in What a Week ! Podcast. It'll bring you right to us. And if anybody needs any media work, video, photography, sound, it's 258studios.com on the interwebs. And
right behind Cooper's.
Yes, sir. And, anybody who's interested to talk to us, just send us a message. We'll happily have you on. 2 weeks ago, I had a converted American Muslim on the show to talk to me about Islam and what's going on. And there was a guy that just left a comment, and I had him come in, and he was fascinating. His name's Michael Perillo. Just a really nice guy, and we had a really good, nuanced conversation, and there was no animosity.
And then before that was the Ben Franklin guy.
Oh, yeah. Greg Young, man. He wrote, it's amazing.
I'm telling you, I'm into the podcast. I love it. Mark Dennebaum, thank you for being with us. I hope you can be with us every week for at least a couple of minutes.
You let me know, Bob. I love what you're doing. You know that.
All right, my friend. Mark Dennebaum.
Have a great day.
What a Week podcast. Good stuff. We'll take a break and be back.